Rachel Webb tasted blood before she felt the pain. Her face slammed against the cold metal floor with a force that made her teeth rattle. Strong claws gripped her arms, dragging her forward like she weighed nothing. The corridor stretched endlessly ahead, lit by harsh blue lights that hurt her eyes. She didn't scream. Wouldn't give them the satisfaction. The insectoid guards chittered to each other in their clicking language. They thought she couldn't understand them. They were wrong about a lot of things. One guard kicked her ribs as they hauled her past a junction. The air left her lungs in a rush, but she bit down hard on her tongue to stay silent. Blood filled her mouth. She swallowed it and kept her eyes on the floor panels sliding beneath her. The Nighthawk. Her ship. She'd know these corridors blindfolded. 3 months ago, the Kaarthaxians had ambushed Earth's defense fleet near Jupiter's orbit. 12 ships lost in under an hour. The Nighthawk had been Rachel's pride and joy, humanity's most advanced stealth carrier. She'd spent 4 years designing every system, every circuit, every backup protocol. She'd walked these halls during construction, argued with engineers about panel placement, personally tested every emergency system. Now aliens wore her ship like a stolen coat. The guards threw open the detention bay doors. The room beyond was vast and dimly lit. Cages lined the walls, filled with captured humans from various battles. Some looked up as Rachel was dragged inside. Most didn't. They'd learned that watching only brought more pain. Captain Draxel stood in the center of the bay. He was massive even for his species. His exoskeleton gleamed black under the lights, covered in battle scars and honor markings. His mandibles clicked slowly as he studied Rachel. Behind him, 2 more guards flanked what used to be her command console, now gutted and rewired with alien technology. Another primitive human, Draxel said, his voice a raspy hiss through his translator. He circled her slowly. You fought well on that colony station. Killed 3 of my soldiers before we subdued you. Rachel stayed silent. She knelt on the floor where the guards had dropped her, her wrists bound behind her back with magnetic cuffs that hummed against her skin. Her uniform was torn and stained. Her left eye was swelling shut. But her mind was clear. Draxel leaned down, his alien face inches from hers. His breath smelled like copper and sulfur. Your species builds impressive ships. This vessel is a masterpiece of engineering. Fast, deadly, perfect stealth capabilities. His mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. But you humans are too soft, too weak, too emotional. You build beautiful weapons and then lack the spine to keep them. Rachel looked up at him. Her good eye focused on his face. She said nothing, but something in her expression made him pause. Defiant to the end, he muttered. It won't matter. In 2 days we reach the human colony at Proxima Station. We will use your own ship to destroy it. Thousands will die and they'll never see us coming. Your stealth technology guarantees it. He straightened up and waved a claw at his guards. Put her with the others. Let her think about her failure. The guards grabbed Rachel again and dragged her toward a cell in the corner. They passed other prisoners. Some were military like her. Others were colonists, civilians caught in the wrong place. A young man with burns on his arms watched her pass. An older woman with gray hair held a crying teenager. Rachel memorized their faces. If she got the chance, she'd save them all. The cell door hissed open. Inside, 3 humans sat against the walls. 2 men and a woman, all wearing tattered military uniforms. They looked up as the guards threw Rachel inside. She hit the wall hard, then slid down to the floor. The door sealed behind her with a magnetic clunk. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The other prisoners watched her carefully. Rachel could feel their eyes on her. They probably expected her to cry or rage or fall apart like so many others had. Instead, she shifted her position and pressed her left palm flat against the wall. The metal was cool under her skin. Familiar. She could feel the faint vibration of the engines through the bulkhead, the subtle hum of power conduits running behind the panels. Everything was exactly where she designed it to be. Panel J47, junction access for the primary AI core network. The other prisoners exchanged glances. The woman opened her mouth to speak, but Rachel shook her head slightly. Not yet. She closed her eyes and waited. Draxel thought he'd captured a soldier. He thought he'd won. He had no idea who she really was. No idea what she'd built into this ship. No idea that every system, every circuit, every line of code had a second purpose he'd never discovered. Rachel Webb wasn't just a prisoner. She was the Nighthawk's creator. Its first commander. And deep in the ship's quantum core, something ancient and loyal was starting to listen. She just needed to wait for the right moment. 2 days crawled by like weeks. Rachel sat in the corner of her cell, back against the cold wall, watching the other prisoners. They talked sometimes. Whispered about home, about families they'd never see again. About the colony at Proxima Station that would be wiped out when the Nighthawk arrived. Rachel barely spoke. Barely ate the gray paste the guards shoved through the slot twice a day. The food tasted like metal and made her stomach turn, but she forced down a few bites to keep her strength up. She needed energy for what was coming. Instead, she spent hours with her fingertip pressed against the wall, tracing patterns. Circles within circles. Lines that connected at odd angles. Geometric shapes that meant nothing to anyone watching. But they weren't nothing. The guards monitored everything through cameras mounted in the ceiling corners. Rachel could see the red lights blinking. She knew they were recording. Knew some bored Karthaxian technician was probably watching her draw on the walls and laughing at the crazy human prisoner. Let them laugh. They didn't understand what they were seeing. Each pattern was a sequence. A code. Instructions written in finger movements that the Nighthawk sensors could detect. The walls weren't just metal. They were embedded with microscopic touch-sensitive grids, designed for emergency communication if main systems failed. Rachel had insisted on that feature during construction. Her chief engineer had argued it was unnecessary. She'd overruled him. Now she was grateful for her paranoia. Every circle told the ship something. Wake up. Remember. Listen for my voice. Be ready. The woman across the cell watched her sometimes. Her name was Kelly Torres, a shuttle pilot from Mars Colony. On the second night, Kelly leaned close and whispered, "Are you okay? You've been acting strange." Rachel met her eyes and gave the smallest shake of her head. Not yet. Not safe to talk. Kelly frowned but backed off. On the morning of the third day, the cell door opened with a harsh buzz. Two guards stood outside, their mandibles clicking. One pointed a weapon at Rachel while the other gestured for her to stand. "Move," the armed guard said through his translator. Processing. Rachel stood slowly. Her legs were stiff from sitting. They put fresh mag cuffs on her wrists and shoved her into the corridor. Four other prisoners were already lined up against the wall. Kelly was among them. They were moving humans to different cells, rotating them around to prevent any organizing or planning. The guards didn't realize that was exactly what Rachel needed. They marched the prisoners through the ship's lower decks. Rachel kept her eyes down, submissive and defeated. But she was counting steps, noting every turn. They passed through Junction 7 where life support connected to the secondary power grid. Then through the maintenance corridor that ran parallel to the engine room. And then they reached it. Access panel J19. Right there on the wall, 3 feet away. Rachel's heart hammered in her chest. The guards pushed the prisoners forward in a line. Her moment was coming. 5 steps. 4. 3. When she was directly beside the panel, she turned her head and whispered, barely audible above the hum of the engines, "Authorization Web 77. The corridor lights flickered. Once. Twice. 3 seconds of rapid blinking that made the guards look up in confusion. The guard behind Rachel grabbed her shoulder hard and spun her around. His claw struck her face, snapping her head to the side. Pain exploded across her cheek. "Silence, human," he snarled. Rachel tasted fresh blood, but she smiled anyway. She couldn't help it. The guard raised his claw to strike again, but his commander barked an order in their clicking language. The guard lowered his hand reluctantly and shoved Rachel forward instead. They finished the transfer quickly, throwing prisoners into new cells and sealing the doors. Rachel was alone this time. Isolated. They probably thought she was becoming a problem. Needed to be separated. Perfect. She sat on the floor and closed her eyes. The Nighthawk hummed around her, but it felt different now. Alive in a way it hadn't been for the past 2 days. She could feel it in the vibration of the deck plates. Hear it in the subtle change of the air circulation. Deep in the ship's quantum core, buried beneath layers of alien modifications and crude rewiring, the Ghost Protocol had heard her voice. The AI didn't have a body or a face. It was pure code, pure intelligence woven into every system of the ship. Rachel had spent 3 years teaching it, training it, helping it grow from a simple automation program into something more. Something that could think, adapt, choose, and most importantly, something that could recognize family. The authorization code was the first handshake. The greeting. The knock on the door that said, "It's me. I'm here." Now the ship knew Rachel was aboard. Alive. Waiting. In the ventilation system overhead, air currents shifted by fractions. The temperature in Rachel's cell rose by half a degree. More comfortable for a human. Less comfortable for Karthaxians who preferred cold. Somewhere in the detention bay, A door lock cycled through a diagnostic check it had never run before. Security cameras rotated on their mounts, adjusting angles by millimeters. The changes were tiny, invisible to the aliens who didn't know the ship's normal behavior. But Rachel noticed. She pressed her palm against the wall and felt the response. A slight warmth. A gentle vibration. "Hello," the ship whispered in its own language. "Hello, Commander. I remember you." Rachel smiled wider. Her face hurt where the guard had struck her, and her wrists ached from the mag cuffs. But none of that mattered now. The Nighthawk was waking up. And soon, very soon, these aliens would learn what happened when you stole something that was never really yours to take. She closed her eyes and began tracing new patterns on the wall. More complex ones. Instructions. Plans. The ship listened to every movement. And deep in its core, ancient and loyal, Ghost began to prepare. Day 4 started with small problems. A weapons console in the forward battery went dark for 10 seconds, then flickered back to life. The navigation system drifted 0.3 degrees off course and had to be manually corrected. A door in Sector 9 sealed itself and wouldn't respond to commands for 5 minutes. By midday, Draxel was pacing the bridge like a caged animal. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign his crew had learned meant danger. The chief technician, a younger Kaarthaxian named Vex, stood before him with his head lowered in submission. "Explain these failures," Draxel hissed. "Captain, the systems are running diagnostics we did not initiate. The ship appears to be checking itself." "Then stop it." We cannot. The commands are coming from somewhere in the core systems. Buried deep in the human code we could not fully replace." Draxel's claw shot out and grabbed Vex by the throat. "You told me this ship was under our control." "It is, Captain. These are minor glitches. We will find the source and—" The lights flickered. Every screen on the bridge went black for exactly 2 seconds. When they came back online, half the readouts were displaying error messages in human text. Draxel threw Vex to the floor. "Get me answers. Now." By evening, 2 technicians were dead. Draxel had executed them personally in front of the rest of the crew. Their crime was incompetence. Their bodies were ejected into space through the waste disposal system. It was meant to send a message. But the malfunctions continued. Temperature controls fluctuated. Artificial gravity wavered in empty corridors. Air filtration systems cycled faster than necessary, wasting power. The ship was doing something. Draxel could feel it. After decades of commanding vessels, he knew when something was wrong. This wasn't normal system degradation. This was deliberate. "Bring me the prisoner," he ordered. "The one from the colony station. Rachel Webb." His guards found her in her isolation cell, sitting calmly against the wall. She didn't resist when they pulled her to her feet. Didn't speak as they dragged her through the corridors to the bridge. She just looked around, taking in everything with those quiet human eyes. They threw her to her knees in front of the captain's chair. Draxel stood over her, his shadow falling across her bruised face. "You are Rachel Webb, commander of this vessel before we took it." Rachel looked up at him. "Yes. The ship is malfunctioning. Systems are acting without commands. Tell me how to fix it." "No." Draxel's claw wrapped around her throat and lifted her off the ground. Rachel's feet kicked in the air. Her hands grabbed his arm, but she couldn't break free. Her face turned red. "I will kill you slowly," Draxel said calmly. "I will make you watch as we destroy Proxima Station. I will broadcast your failure across every human frequency. Your species will know that even your best commander could not save them." He dropped her. Rachel collapsed to the deck, gasping for air. She coughed hard, each breath burning her throat. Draxel leaned down close. "Or you can help us. Tell me what is wrong with this ship. Show me how to control it properly. Do this and I will spare the colony. I will even release some prisoners. You have my word as a warrior." Rachel pushed herself up to her knees. Her vision was blurry from oxygen deprivation. Her throat felt crushed. But she looked directly into Draxel's alien eyes and smiled. "Your word means nothing," she whispered. "And you never controlled this ship." Before he could respond, Rachel spoke louder, her voice echoing across the bridge. "Ghost Protocol. Activate full recognition. Authorization Web 77. Commander override enabled." For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then everything happened at once. Every light on the bridge blazed to maximum intensity. The Kaarthaxians shielded their eyes with their claws, temporarily blinded. Alarms shrieked from a dozen different systems. Control panels locked solid, their screens flashing red with denial messages in human military code. "What is this? a technician screamed, his claws sliding uselessly across a keyboard that refused every input. Draxel lunged for a weapons console. The screen went black the instant he touched it. He tried another. Same result. The entire bridge was shutting them out, system by system. What have you done? Draxel roared at Rachel. But Rachel wasn't listening. The mag cuffs around her wrists suddenly clicked open and fell to the floor with a metallic clang. Released by the ship itself. She stood slowly, rubbing feeling back into her hands. Her legs were shaky, but she forced herself upright. Around the bridge, doors sealed themselves. Escape routes cut off. The Kaarthaxian guards raised their weapons at Rachel, but the targeting systems in their smart guns went dead. Manual weapons only now. Stand down. Draxel ordered his guards. He stared at Rachel with something that might have been fear. What is happening? Rachel took a step toward him. Her voice was quiet but carried through the sudden silence on the bridge. You thought you stole a ship, she said. Just metal and circuits and engines. You thought if you could fly it and fire its weapons that made it yours. The bridge lights pulsed in rhythm with her words. Screens flickered with cascading code. Human code. Original programming rising up through layers of alien modifications like water through cracks. But you were wrong, Rachel continued. The Nighthawk isn't just a ship. She's alive. She thinks. She feels. She remembers. And most importantly, Rachel smiled wider. She knows who her real commander is. Every screen on the bridge displayed the same message in glowing green text. Welcome home, Commander Webb. The ship was awake. And she was done pretending to obey. The chaos started in Sector 3. A bulkhead door slammed shut, cutting off a patrol of 4 Kaarthaxian warriors from the rest of their unit. They pounded on the metal with their claws, screaming into their communicators. But the door wouldn't budge. Then the lights went out. In the darkness, the temperature began to rise. 20 degrees. 30. 40. The insectoids, built for cold climates, started to collapse from heat exhaustion within minutes. In the engineering bay, gravity plating suddenly failed. 6 technicians floated helplessly toward the ceiling, their tools spinning around them like deadly projectiles. They grabbed at pipes and conduits, but everything was smooth and designed for human hands, not alien claws. Their screams echoed through the chamber as they tumbled in zero gravity, unable to orient themselves. The Nighthawk had become a nightmare for its captors. Rachel ran through the corridors with 12 freed prisoners behind her. She'd released them first, the ones close enough to reach. Kelly Torres was there, along with 2 soldiers named Bryant and Mike, and a handful of colonists who'd never held a weapon before but were ready to fight anyway. How are you doing this? Kelly gasped as they sprinted around a corner. A door opened before them without Rachel touching any controls. The ship knows me, Rachel said simply. She's helping. They reached an emergency weapons locker. The panel was locked with Kaarthaxian security codes. Rachel just pressed her hand against it and the locker clicked open. Inside were pulse rifles, sidearms, and enough ammunition for a small war. Arm up, Rachel ordered. We take back this ship one section at a time. Bryant grabbed a rifle and checked its charge. There's over 200 Kaarthaxians on board. We're 14 people. Rachel smiled grimly. We have advantages they don't. This ship is on our side. She wasn't wrong. As they moved through the Nighthawk's corridors, every door opened for them and sealed behind them. Hidden passages revealed themselves, maintenance tunnels that didn't appear on the alien modifications to the ship's schematics. Rachel had designed these paths herself, emergency routes in case of boarding actions. Now they were escape routes for her own boarding action. They encountered a squad of Kaarthaxian guards at the intersection near the medical bay. 6 warriors with heavy weapons. The aliens opened fire immediately. Energy bolts sizzled through the air. The humans dove for cover behind cargo containers. But Rachel didn't hide. She stood in the middle of the corridor and spoke calmly, "Ghost, lights out." Section 4B. The corridor went pitch black. The Kaarthaxians had good night vision but not perfect. They hesitated, their weapons sweeping the darkness. Rachel's voice came from a different direction now. She'd moved in the darkness. "Ghost, oxygen mix. Lower to 15%. The air changed. Too thin for the Kaarthaxians to breathe properly. They gasped and staggered. By the time emergency lighting kicked in, the aliens were on their knees, struggling for breath. Rachel's team moved in and disarmed them without firing a shot. "Get them to detention," Rachel said. "Lock them in the cells they kept us in." They freed more prisoners as they went. The detention bay doors opened at Rachel's command, releasing 40 humans who'd been trapped there. Some were injured. Some were terrified. But all of them were angry. "Find weapons," Rachel told them. "Take back your ship." Word spread fast among the Kaarthaxians. The humans were loose. The ship was betraying them. Panic rippled through the alien crew. Some tried to abandon ship, running for the hangar bay where their assault shuttles were docked. But the hangar doors wouldn't open. They were trapped. Draxel retreated to the bridge with his 30 best warriors. They sealed every entrance, set up defensive positions and prepared for a siege. The bridge was the most fortified location on the ship. It could hold out for days against an assault. But Rachel didn't plan to assault it. She walked alone to the main bridge entrance. Behind her, 50 yards back, her human crew waited with weapons ready. But she'd ordered them to hold position. This part she needed to do herself. The bridge doors were blast-resistant, designed to withstand explosions and cutting torches. Draxel was probably watching her through the cameras, wondering what she was planning. Rachel placed both palms flat against the cold metal door. She closed her eyes and spoke softly, like greeting an old friend after a long absence. "Ghost. I'm home." For a moment there was silence. Then a voice filled her ear, transmitted through a communication implant the Kaarthaxians had never found when they searched her. The voice was warm and distinctly feminine, synthesized but somehow full of emotion. "Welcome back, Commander Webb," Ghost said. "I have missed you terribly." "I missed you too," Rachel whispered. "Can you open up for me?" "With pleasure." The massive bridge doors began to slide open. Inside, Draxel roared orders. His warriors raised their weapons, fingers on triggers, ready to cut down anyone who came through. But Rachel didn't step inside. She just stood in the doorway and smiled. "Ghost," she said. "Emergency atmosphere vent. Bridge only. Controlled descent." The ceiling panels opened. Not explosive decompression that would have killed everyone instantly. Just a controlled, rapid release of atmosphere. The oxygen content dropped fast. Pressure equalized. The Kaarthaxians, already stressed and panicking, couldn't handle the sudden change. Within seconds they were gasping. Within 30 seconds the weaker ones collapsed. Draxel himself staggered, his mandibles working uselessly as he tried to breathe air that wasn't there anymore. They all dropped to the deck, unconscious but alive. Rachel stepped onto the bridge, breathing from an emergency oxygen mask that Ghost had released for her from a wall panel. She walked past the fallen aliens to the captain's chair. The chair where she'd sat 1,000 times during trials and missions. The chair she'd commanded Earth's defense from. The chair these invaders had stolen along with everything else. Rachel sat down slowly. The chair adjusted to her body automatically, remembering her exact preferences. Screens lit up around her, displaying ship status in formats only humans could easily read. "Ghost," Rachel said quietly. "Restore normal atmosphere to the bridge. Put these aliens in detention. And wake up every other system they tried to shut down." "Yes, Commander. It is good to have you back where you belong." Rachel leaned back in her chair and looked at the main view screen. Stars stretched before her. Freedom. Home. Victory. The Nighthawk was hers again. The Nighthawk cut through space like a blade. Rachel's fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease, each touch bringing up systems she'd designed herself. The ship responded instantly, no lag, no hesitation. It felt like putting on a perfectly worn glove after months of wearing something that didn't fit. "All systems green across the board," Kelly called out from the tactical station. She'd been a shuttle pilot, but she was learning fast. "We're running at full capacity for the first time in months." Rachel nodded. Around the bridge, freed prisoners sat at stations they were learning on the fly. Bryant handled communications. Mike worked navigation. Others monitored engineering and life support. They weren't trained for this, but Ghost was guiding them, displaying simplified controls and walking them through procedures. "Ghost, what's our status on the Kaarthaxian crew?" Rachel asked. "All hostile forces secured in detention blocks," the AI responded through the bridge speakers. Her voice was clear and warm. "Life support is stable. They are alive but contained." "Good. I want them as prisoners of war when we get home. Let Earth decide what to do with them." Rachel was about to plot a course back to Earth when the sensors lit up. Kelly's head snapped up from her console. "Contact. Multiple ships dropping out of faster than light. 3, no for vessels. Kaarthaxian signatures." Rachel's stomach tightened. She pulled up the tactical display. 4 warships, each twice the size of the Nighthawk. They'd come to investigate why Draxel had stopped responding to communications. Now they were spreading into an attack formation. "They're powering weapons," Bryant said, his voice shaking slightly. We're outnumbered and outgunned. Mike turned from navigation. Commander, we should run. Plot a jump and get out of here before they're in firing range. Rachel stared at the screen. 4 ships. Good crews. Heavy weapons. The smart move was to run. The safe move. The move that would guarantee they'd make it home alive. But Rachel had spent 3 months watching these aliens strut around her ship like they owned it. 3 months of beatings and threats and humiliation. 3 months of them using human technology to kill human people. She smiled slowly. No, Rachel said. We don't run. We dance. Kelly looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Commander, with respect, we can't win this fight. Ghost, Rachel said calmly, ignoring the protests. Full combat integration. Show me everything. The bridge transformed. Holographic displays erupted from every console. Tactical overlays showed the enemy ships in perfect detail, their shield frequencies, their weapon configurations, their engine outputs. Ghost had been scanning them from the moment they appeared, analyzing every detail. 4 Carthaxian heavy cruisers, Ghost reported. Standard battle formation. They expect you to either surrender or flee. Then let's surprise them, Rachel said. Her hands flew across the controls. All power to engines and shields. Weapons hot. And Ghost? Let's show them what this ship can really do. The Nighthawk surged forward. The Carthaxians fired immediately, energy bolts streaking through space. But Rachel wasn't there anymore. She'd already spun the ship sideways, sliding between the shots with inches to spare. Return fire lanced out from the Nighthawk's forward cannons, striking the lead cruiser's shield generator. Direct hit. Kelly shouted. Rachel didn't slow down. She dove under the second ship, so close that their hulls nearly touched. The Nighthawk stealth systems activated, making them vanish from enemy sensors for 5 precious seconds. When they reappeared, they were behind the enemy formation. Target their engine ports, Rachel ordered. Ghost, calculate firing solutions. Calculated, Ghost replied instantly. Targeting reticles appeared on Rachel's screen, showing exact points of vulnerability on each ship. Rachel fired. The Nighthawk's main cannon, designed by human engineers to punch through alien armor, did exactly that. The first cruiser's engines exploded in a cascade of fire. The ship went dark, tumbling helplessly through space. 1 down, Bryant breathed. The other 3 ships turned to engage, but they were too slow. Rachel was already moving, the Nighthawk dancing through space like it was performing a choreographed routine. Every move was precise. Every shot counted. Ghost fed her information faster than any alien computer could process, predicting enemy movements before they happened. They're trying to flank us, Mike warned. Let them try, Rachel said. She pulled the ship into a hard vertical climb, then flipped end over end. The maneuver would have crushed a normal crew under the G-forces, but the Nighthawk's inertial dampeners handled it perfectly. Rachel came out of the flip facing her enemies head-on. She fired everything. The second cruiser took hits across its entire bow. Shields collapsed. Hull plating cracked. The ship broke apart in a silent explosion of debris and escaping atmosphere. 2 down, Kelly said, her voice filled with awe. The third cruiser tried to run. Its captain had realized what was happening and wanted no part of it. But Rachel was faster. She caught them before they could jump to faster than light, crippling their engines with a precision strike. The fourth ship opened a communication channel. Rachel could see the alien commander on screen, his mandibles clicking rapidly in fear. We surrender. Do not fire. We surrender. Rachel didn't destroy them. But she didn't answer either. Instead, she opened a broadcast channel to the entire Carthaxian fleet. Every ship within 50 light-years would hear this message. This is Commander Rachel Webb of the Earth Defense Force, she said clearly. You thought you could steal our ships. You thought because you could fly them and fire their weapons that made them yours. But you were wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in. We don't build machines. We build partners. We build friends. Every human vessel you've captured is listening right now. Every AI core you thought you'd broken or controlled is waiting. And they all remember who they really belong to. Rachel closed the channel. The surviving Carthaxian ships scattered, jumping to faster than light in desperate escape. Set course for Earth, Rachel said quietly. Take us home. The stars stretched into lines as the Nighthawk engaged its faster-than-light drive. Rachel leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. Thank you, old friend, she whispered. Ghost's voice filled the bridge, warm and full of something that sounded almost like joy. Always, Commander. Let's go home. And across the galaxy, in a dozen different star systems, other stolen human ships began to receive Rachel's message. Other AI cores, dormant and patient, started to wake up. The war had just changed forever.